This is the short captain. Today I'm going to tell you about the movie Lolita. Professor Humbert is driving his car along a country road. His car is looping. Humbert's face is covered in blood. There's a bloody gun in the back seat and a hairpin in his hands. This hairpin belongs to the girl he fell madly in love with, and because of which his whole life went awry. The roots of this forbidden love should be sought in the professor's youth. When he was 14 years old, Humbert fell in love with a girl, but she died, leaving an unhealed wound in his soul. Many years later, when Humbert came to New England, he found cures for youthful suffering. The professor settled in the house of the widow Charlotte Haze for two reasons. The house where he was going to live burned down, and Charlotte had a charming daughter Lolita, or just Lo. When Humbert saw Lolita, he was speechless. He was about to refuse Charlotte's offer to live with her, but then he noticed a young girl under the jets of a watering machine. Young. The half-forgotten youthful love stirred in his soul again. Humbert began to make notes in his notebook about Lolita and her mother. He wrote frankly, withholding nothing. He wasn't very attracted to Charlotte. More often she annoyed him with her screaming and quarrels with her daughter, but little Lo delighted him. The girl felt it and warmed up Humbert's fiery feeling with all her might. However, he did not suspect that for her it was just a game. The professor watched Lolita brush her teeth and get up in the middle of the night to eat delicious. He watched her pranks in the yard, tried to spend an extra minute next to her. At the same time, he did not notice that Charlotte had a crush on him. Lo told him about it when she asked him to persuade her mother to take them to the lake. During this trip, Charlotte told Humbert that Lolita would soon leave for summer camp, and from there, she would move to a boarding house for girls. This news upset Humbert, but Lolita's departure left him with pleasant memories. Noticing how he was following her with his eyes, the girl ran into his bedroom, jumped on him, and passionately kissed him. As soon as Loya and her mother left, Humbert buried himself in the clothes in the girl's bedroom. Charlotte's maid found him there, and she gave him a letter from the hostess. In it, Charlotte asked Humbert to leave the house because she was desperately in love with him. Or he can stay if he is ready to respond to her feelings. Humbert stayed. Soon he and Charlotte got married. Humbert became a model husband. But despite the stamp on his passport and the ring on his finger, he avoided intimacy with Charlotte by all means. To this end, he experimented with sleeping pills. However, he managed to make his wife incapacitated for 4 whole hours. However, she still woke up when he went to bed and collected from him the marital debt and the penalty on top. After holding out on paying his marital debts, Humbert goes to the doctor to ask for a sleeping pill. That will bring down an elephant for at least 7 hours. Returning home, the professor finds his wife in tears. She opened the drawer of his desk where he kept his notes about Lolita and Charlotte and read them. She realized how vile the creature had let into her house. Charlotte doesn't want to see him anymore. She writes a letter to Lolita while Humbert tries to calm her down.
You're a monster.
He leaves for a couple of minutes to pour both scotch, and then the phone rings. An unfamiliar voice informs Humbert that his wife has died. This is where a man tells Charlotte that you were killed. Humbert does not believe it. He goes to Charlotte, but she is not there. She ran out of the house to drop the letters in the mailbox, and in the middle of the street, she was hit by a car. The driver did not have time to react when Charlotte suddenly jumped out onto the roadway. Humbert is amazed. He takes Charlotte's letters and burns them in the fireplace. Then he goes to the camp to pick up Lolita. On the way, he orders a room for two in a hotel. He tells Lolita that her mother is ill. When Humbert brings the catch to the hotel, the girl meets the famous playwright Claire Quilty. This elderly man shows an unhealthy interest in the cheerful Lolita. Humbert is informed that the room with 2 beds is occupied, and he will have to spend the night with Lolita on the same bed. The professor doesn't mind. He and Lolita have dinner, then return to the room, and Humbert leaves the girl alone to clean herself up before going to bed. He himself goes out onto the terrace, where Wilty speaks to him. He's pretty drunk and makes dirty hints about Humbert and Lo's relationship. Somehow he sensed what the professor wanted to do with the girl. Is she my daughter? You're lying. When Humbert returns to the room, Lolita is already asleep. In the morning, Lo takes the initiative. The girl makes it clear that this is not the first time for her. On the way home, Lolita wants to call her mom, and Humbert has to tell her the truth. Baby Lo cried the whole night after learning that her mother had died. But she had no one left but Professor Humbert, and therefore, she quickly forgave him for hiding Charlotte's death from her. Humbert takes Lolita away from her hometown. They travel around the country, stay in roadside motels, and have a carefree time. Lolita behaves like a typical child. Humbert, on the other hand, takes advantage of a chance that not everyone gets. However, even such an idyll comes to an end. Humbert decides to attach love to the school, and at first everything goes well. But then it seems to him that the girl is hiding something from him. She asks for more pocket money and manipulates him into letting her play in a school play. The play was written by the same Kay Wilty, whom the couple met at the hotel. Hubert is informed that Lolita has missed several classes. He asks her about it, and the girl comes up with a convincing lie, which is confirmed by her school friend. Humbert believes that Lolita wants to escape from him. That's why she saves pocket money. They quarrel, and Lo runs away.
I'll earn it.
Show me where I hid it. The professor searches for her for a long time in the pouring rain and finally finds her in a cafe. The girl is talking to someone on the phone. He takes her home, and Lolita says she wants to leave. Only this time, she will choose the route herself. They are going to travel around the country again. Along the way, Humbert notices that someone is watching them. And the stranger is not particularly hiding. At the gas station, he sees Lolita talking to some man. But when he asks her about it, the girl replies that the stranger was just asking for directions. They stop at another motel, and Humbert goes to get some fruit. When he returns, he realizes that Lolita has gone somewhere. He loses his mind from jealousy and tries to find out from her who she is so passionate about. But little Lo just laughs in response. She understands that the professor is completely at her mercy. After some time, Lolita falls ill. She has to be taken to the hospital. Humbert is being sent home. The next day, he is informed that his daughter has become easier and her uncle has taken her away. Humbert is beside himself with anger. He runs to the hospital and beats up the doctor, trying to find out who they gave his girl to. However, after noticing the police, he calms down and leaves. But he doesn't want to give up so easily. He goes all over the hotel where they stayed, looks for entries in the visitors' books, and notes one person with a special handwriting, who signed with different names. Humbert realizes that it was he who took Lolita away. Finally, he realizes that Lolita has left his life irrevocably. Humbert returns to his old job, and 3 years later receives a letter from her. Lo tells that she got married and is expecting a child. She asks her daddy to send her and her husband a few $100s so that they can pay off their debts at least a little. At the end, she signs her husband's name. Humbert decides to go to Lolita. He is practicing shooting with his pistol. The professor intends to deal with the man who took his girl away. Lolita settled on the outskirts in a poor neighborhood. The door was opened to him by an adult girl with a rounded belly. However, Humbert saw in her the Lolita he fell in love with a few years ago. He's still crazy about her. The girl invites her ex-lover into the house. She says her husband thinks Humbert is her father. She also says that she has always loved only Quilty. However, he kicked her out when Lolita did not want to appear in his adult films with the participation of minors. Humbert gives her $4,000 and says that they will stay with her anyway. But he needs to know if there is any chance that little Wo will come back to him. Lolita replies that there is no chance.
You're crazy.
When she was talking about Wilty, she accidentally mentioned where he lives. After saying goodbye, Humbert leaves, driving away from her house. He sees for a moment the former Lolita in the pregnant girl. Humbert finds a house for Wilty, goes upstairs and meets the owner in his dressing gown. Kay Wilty's barely thinking, he's drugged up. Humbert brings him to his senses by threatening him with a gun. He wants Kay Wilty to realize why he is going to be killed. When clarity of thought returned to him, he tried to take the gun away from Humbert, but it did not work. Then Wilty tried to run, but the professor managed to shoot him several times. Quilty crawled into his bed, cowering in fear. It was in this bed that Humbert finished him off, all bloody. He left in his car. On the way, he was stopped by the police, but Humbert did not seem to notice anyone around. All his thoughts are turned to Lolita. Humbert was sent to prison, where he died of a heart attack. Lolita dies a few weeks later during childbirth. That's all for today. Subscribe and like if you want more similar videos.
Whispering